current electricity. Current electricity is chapter number 3. So current electricity starts with the concept of electric current. It starts with the concept of electric current. So let's first discuss some basic properties of current. Like, what is current? Current is rate of flow of charge. In a very simple language, if you have a charge and that charge is at rest, that means there is no current. But if your charge is in motion, then you will have current. Current is rate of flow of charge. Current is rate of flow of charge. Rate of flow of charge is current. So if you have a charge which is at rest, current is 0. But if your charge is in motion, then you will have some current. The next comes the direction of current. The direction of current is same as that of motion of positive charge. Direction of current is same as that of motion of positive charge. So direction of current is exactly same as that of motion of positive charge and opposite to that of negative charge. And opposite to that of negative charge. So if you have a positive charge and that positive charge is moving in this direction, then this is the direction of current. But if you have a negative charge and it's moving in this direction with a velocity v, then the direction of current is opposite. Direction of current is same as that of motion of positive charge, but opposite to that of motion of negative charge. This is how we calculate the direction of current. The next thing is how to calculate the magnitude of current. So you take a conductor. Through this cross section of conductor, some delta Q charge passes through this cross section in time delta t. So this conductor, this is some cross section of the conductor. In time delta t, some delta Q charge is passing through the conductor. So delta Q charge passes through cross section. Let's say the cross sectional area is it. Cross sectional area means area of the ends. Like if this is a complete wire, then the current will depend only over the cross sectional area only. Current does not depends upon the total area. It depends only on the cross sectional area of the ends. Cross section A in time delta t. So you can write that current would be its delta Q over delta t now. This is the current. If delta Q charge is passing through a cross-sectional area in time delta t, then the current is delta Q by delta t only. So current is rate of flow of charge. When I say rate of flow of charge means flow of charge with respect to time. So charge divided by time will be current. But this is your average current. This current is average. If you need instantaneous current, if you need instantaneous current, then I can write that I is limit delta t tends to 0 So to get the value of instantaneous current, we will just shrink this time interval, delta t tends to 0, and I can write this as delta q over delta t will comes out to be its dq over dt. So this is your instantaneous current, which is derivative of charge with respect to time. So I'm repeating again. What is current? Current is flow of charge. If you have a charge and that charge is in motion, that means your system have current. Current is nothing but the motion of charge. When the charge moves, then current comes, and after current, you will have phenomena like electrical energy, electrical resistance, and other things. The next is direction of current. Direction of current is same as that of motion of positive charge and opposite to that of negative charge. So if you have a negative charge which is moving to the right hand side, then the current will be to the left hand side. Next, how we calculate current? We calculate current through rate of change. So we take a conductor, its area of cross section is A. Area of cross section means area of the ends only. In some time delta T, some delta Q charge passes through this cross sectional area. So you can write that current is rate of flow of charge, it's delta Q over delta T. That's current. But this is average current. If you are dividing two terms, then the quantity that you get is average. Average means I'm asking you to calculate current in some 2 hours. That's an average current. But if I ask you to calculate current at 2 p.m., if I give you a time instant, then that current would be instantaneous. So that's average. For instantaneous, take limit delta t tends to 0. You can write delta q by delta t as dq over dt. So that is instantaneous current, which is dq over dt. Now, if you can differentiate charge with respect to time, then whatever we get is instantaneous current. Next, unlike field and force, current is a scalar. It does not follow vector laws. Although current have direction, but it's not following vector laws. We don't consider it as a vector. Its SI unit is ampere. Few more important points about current. In a circuit, the direction of current is from higher to lower potential. In a circuit, direction of current is from higher to lower potential. Higher to lower potential. Means if I take this cell and this is wire, then this is at higher potential and this is at lower potential. So this will be the direction of current. So this is how the current moves from the higher potential to the lower potential. Just note it down and tell me if you have any doubt. We will have few extra classes in this week. Tomorrow you have a class at 8 a.m. Just note the timings. From 8 to 10.
Sir, morning.
Yes, morning 8. Morning 8 a.m. Yes, Abdullah. Higher to lower means greater to lower potential. Higher to lower potential. So tomorrow you have class at 8 a.m. Huh? We have to finish current by the end of this week. Any doubt up to this basic definition of current? Amalia, Mariam, Sania?
No, sir.
Okay, I'm changing the slide. Huh? Let's do some basic problems on current. The first question is very simple. Charge flowing through a conductor flowing through cross section of a conductor is Q is 3t square plus 2t plus 1 coulomb. So this is the charge which is flowing through the cross section of a conductor, 3t square plus 2t plus 1. Calculate. First part. Current in 0 to 2 seconds. Second part. I need current at t equal to 2 seconds. Sania, in the first part, it's average current or instantaneous current that you are supposed to calculate. 0 to 2 seconds. Yes, Sania. Is this average or instantaneous?
Instantaneous.
Okay. First of all, decide whether this is a time instant 0 to 2 or it's a time interval 0 to 2. Sania.
Time interval.
Time interval. So, bache, whenever you have time interval, that means we are calculating average current. Okay. Whenever you have time interval, that means you are calculating average current. But when you have time instant, then we calculate instantaneous current. We calculate instantaneous current when we have time instant. But
So
when you
how
have
do we differentiate between time interval and instantaneous?
in interval means you will have two instants, like it's from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. That's an interval, or 2 seconds to 6 seconds. That's an interval. But if I say at 2 seconds, it's an instant. If I say at 3 p.m., that's an instant. Yes, Ahmed.
Yes, sir.
So in the first part, it's time interval. When the interval is given, that means you are supposed to calculate the average one. Yes, no, you are right. If the time interval is given, that means you're supposed to calculate the average current. But if instant is given, that means you're supposed to calculate the instantaneous current. So the first is very straightforward. So what current are we calculating in the first part, Amalia? Is it average or instantaneous in the first part? I can't hear you, Amalia. In the first part, are we calculating the average current or the instantaneous current? No response, huh? Fatma, in the first part, are we calculating average or instantaneous?
Average.
Average, because interval is given.
Yeah.
And average we write as delta
Delta Q by delta T.
Delta Q means change. Final charge minus initial charge. Delta T means change in time interval, T2 minus T1. Okay, Noor, let's check your answers. T1 is 0 seconds. Next, you need Q1. For Q1, what you can do is, in this expression, put T equal to 0. This expression of charge is valid for any time. If you want to calculate charge, particularly at T equal to 0, so put T equal to 0 here. So this is 3 into 0 square plus 2 into 0 plus 1. 1. T2. Second is 2 seconds. So yours Q2 is, it's 3 into 2 square plus 2 into 2 plus 1. So Q2 is 4, 3, 12, 12, 4, 16, 1, 17, it's 17. So this is Q1, which is 1 coulomb. This is Q2, which is 17 coulomb. So now we have Q1 as well as we have Q2. Also, we have T1 as well as we have T2. You can just simply substitute all these values here. And when I substitute all these values here, I get I is Q2. Q2 was 17, na?
Yes, sir.
And Q1 is 1. T2 is 2. T1 is 0. So it's 16 by 2. That's 8 ampere. That's your average current. For instantaneous current, So, Mariam, how would you calculate instantaneous current? You will use division or differentiation?
Differentiation.
Differentiation. So you can write that instantaneous current is rate of change of or the derivative of charge with respect to time. So it's d over dt of, the equation is 3t square. It's 3t square plus 2t plus 1. You can write all these terms separately. Like this is d over dt of 3t square plus it's d over dt of 2t plus it's d over dt of 1. Next, what we can do is we can take this 3 as a constant outside, d over dt of t square. And I can take this 2 outside, it's d over dt of 1 t. Then I can just, this is 1 only. Okay, Shahzada, what's the derivative of t square? Yes, Shahzada, what's the derivative of t square? Shahzada, your voice is not very clear. Can you tell me one more time what's the derivative of t square? Yes, it's 2 t to the power 2 minus 1. Good. Next, we have it's 2. We need to differentiate this t. What's the derivative of t? The derivative of t is 1 into t to the power 1 minus 1. Then we have derivative of 1, which is 0. So this is the expression of current, which is 6t plus 2. Then you need current at t equal to 2 seconds. Substitute t equal to 2 here. So we'll get 6 into 2 plus 2. So your current will be 14 ampere. So this is the value of current. Your current through the system is 14 ampere. So this is how we calculate instantaneous current and average current. Just note it down. We have few more numericals into it. Amalia, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Sania?
Yes, sir.
Just tell me once you have written, I'll change the slide.
Said so can you explain this part?
See, Ahmed, this is 3 into d over dt of t square, right? When you differentiate this t square, the derivative of t square is 2t to the power 2 minus 1. That's the direct formula for differentiation. This is the formula of differentiation of polynomial function. Like if you have a function like
Is it like we are cancelling that out? D and T.
no, I'm differentiating. You don't know differentiation, Ahmed, huh?
No.
Oh, that's the issue. Derivative of x to the power n is this, n x to the power n minus 1. This is the formula. I'm not cancelling d and t. It's a totally different operator. So x to the power n, if you are differentiating, that is nx to the power n minus 1. So here you can compare it. Instead of x, I'm using t. Okay. Instead of n, I'm using 2. So when I differentiate, I will write it as nx to the power n minus 1. So I'm writing 2t to the power 2 minus 1.
Okay, sir.
Similarly here the power is 1. So I will write this as 1t to the power 1 minus 1. T to the power 1 minus 1 is t to the power 0. Anything to the power 0 is 1. So that's 60 plus 2. If you put t equal to 2, then it will be 6 into 2 plus 2, which is 14 ampere. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Note it down, that will change, then I'll change the slide.
Yes, sir. Done.
Done, sir.
Okay, after these type of questions, the next type of questions that one can get is based on frequency. The next question is, it's like an electron is revolving around nucleus with frequency nu. So there's an electron which is revolving around the nucleus with the frequency nu. Calculate current. See, current we can write in this way. Current is charge divided by time. So if an electron is, so this is the question, this is the nucleus. Around this nucleus, this electron is revolving. Current is just charge divided by time. The charge of an electron is E minus E. We just need time, where T is time taken to complete one revolution. To complete one revolution. We usually call the time taken to complete one revolution as time period. So instead of small t, I'll be using a capital T. That's time period, time taken to complete one revolution. Now, who will tell? Shahzada will tell. Shahzada, can you relate frequency and capital to capital T? Yes, it's minus, na, Abdullah. It's electron. Its charge is minus E minus 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 9.
Okay, sir.
Yes, Shahzada. Can you relate frequency and capital T time period?
So frequency is like
Yes, frequency is 1 by time period, right?
Yes.
So you can write your T as 1 by frequency. Substitute it here. So I call this as first equation. I call this as second equation. I call this as third equation. When I substitute, instead of charge, I'm writing E. I'm not writing the negative sign. We're just calculating the magnitude. And the time is 1 by frequency. So frequency will go to numerator and you will get I is equal to E. So this is the current for one revolution.
Sir, minus, right?
Abdullah, usually in the expression of current, we don't write minus sign. Minus sign will just show direction. So if you want, I can substitute.
Okay, okay.
So it's minus of E nu. This is for one revolution. But what if electron is making 10 revolutions, Fatma? If electron is making one revolution, then I say current is minus of E nu. What if it is making 10 revolutions?
Minus 10 EV.
Yes, you will multiply by 10. Huh? So for n revolutions, just multiply it with it. For n revolution, your current will be n times EV. So that's your current. Minus of NE into frequency. N is the number of revolutions, E is the electronic charge, and nu is the frequency. So this is the current for N revolutions. Note it down. These are small one marker questions. Yes, Abdullah. We'll discuss that schedule tomorrow. Huh? Tomorrow we'll be discussing the schedule for Saturday.
So we'll have class on Saturday also.
Let's see. We'll discuss it on Friday.
Okay.
See next time. So basically the next type of questions are on graphical questions. You can also get graphical questions on current electricity. So the graphical question says that you have this x-axis, then you have this y-axis, and this is y-axis. This is graph, straight line graph. On x-axis, we have time. We have time on the x-axis. We have charge on the y-axis. So if I take the slope of this line, this angle is theta. If we get the slope of this line, like tan theta, then tan theta is perpendicular upon base. This perpendicular is parallel to charge, and this space is parallel to time. So we'll write tan theta as q by t. And what is q by t? That's current. And this tan theta is the slope. So if you have charge versus time graph, then the slope of this graph will give you current. There's one more type of questions on this concept, which says if you have time versus current graph, then you will calculate the charge. So you have current versus time graph now. So for current versus time graph, if you can get this area under current versus time graph will give charge. Area under current versus T graph will give charge. So these are the two type of questions that you can get on this graph. First is the slope of the current versus charge versus time graph. This will give you current. But if you have current versus time graph, then this area under the current versus time graph is charge. This is charge basically. Always keep these two things in mind. If you have charge versus time, then take the slope. Tan theta, take tan theta, that will give current. But if you have current versus time, then take this area. This area will give you the charge. This whole area, the shaded area of the triangle will give you charge. Just note it down. So these were the numericals which were there in past 10 years question papers on the simple definition of current. Next, we will do the concept of drift velocity. Yes. Can I change the slide now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So that was just the definition of current. Like what is current? It's rate of flow of charge. One more thing. For current, you need flow of charge only. It's not necessary that your charge is flowing through a conductor. Your charge can even flow through space, like in between Earth and Sun. If some electrons are moving from Sun to Earth, then due to the motion of those electrons, you will have current. And you don't always need electrons. Like you can have alpha particles, some charged particles, they are moving from Sun to Earth. Due to their motion, you will have current. So current is flow of charge only. It could be any charge. Electron, proton, alpha particle. You can have a ball, charged ball, then also you will have current. Now, this chapter of current electricity is divided into two categories. The one category is that of circuits, like you have electric circuits to solve. The second category is theoretical. Theoretical means you will see how current flows at the level of an electron. What happens in a conductor when you connect that conductor to the source of voltage, when you connect a conductor to a cell, what happens inside that conductor due to which current starts flowing. So we'll have this chapter into two parts. One is theoretical, another is circuit. You have a good idea of circuits, how to solve circuits. The next theoretical part starts with the concept of drift velocity. But before starting this drift velocity, The picture of conductor should be very, very clear in your mind. What is a conductor? Conductor, material which have free electrons. That's it. Having free electrons. That's it. That's a conductor. It can conduct electricity. Basically, these electrons are responsible for all properties of conductors. We have already discussed conductor in the second chapter. What are the constituents of a conductor? If we take a conductor, while we are studying current electricity, then the two things of our interest are one, free electron, second, ions. So conductor have these two important things. One is free electrons, another is ions. This is ion and this is free electron. Ions are immobile, they don't move. Well, to be very exact, ions are in motion, but if you compare the motion of ions with the motion of electrons, then you can say that ions are almost at rest. They are just vibrating about their mean positions. But when we compare the motion of ions with the motion of electrons, then we say, okay, ions are completely at rest, only electrons are moving. So the model that we will discuss in the next few minutes, in that model, we will assume that ions are at rest, only electrons are moving. For the next discussion, I'll be using some topics from class 11 and some topics from chapter number 1. So the first thing that I'll be using is this force. Acceleration is force upon mass. That's from class 11. I'll be using these relations V is U plus AT. I'll be using this expression that force is equal to QE. This we did in previous chapter. I'll be using this term, this thing that if I take electric field and I put a positively charged particle in that field, then this positively charged particle will experience a force in the direction of field. Negatively charged particle will experience force in opposite directions. This is all we have discussed in class. This is what we have discussed in class 11, and this is what we discussed in chapter number 1. Okay, note it down. Abdullah, so it's prayer time. Okay. That 5 to 7 minutes break, then I will continue. 5 minutes break for namaz, then we'll continue. So, shall I start now?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So these are the topics that we'll be using in the next discussion. This thing and this from chapter number 1, electric charge and field. The topic is drift velocity. Drift velocity is basically that velocity with which electrons move inside a conductor when you apply a potential difference to the conductor. Means when you connect the conductor to a cell, then the velocity with which electrons move inside the conductor is known as drift velocity. So it's velocity with which electrons drift towards the positive end of conductor. Is known as drift velocity. Under application of electric field. So let's take a conductor and see how this conductor behave if I don't connect this conductor. And there's one more concept from the previous chapter, that if you have electric field, that if I take 2 points, one point A and another point B, and if I'm saying that a field exists between A and B, that means there is a potential difference between A and B. Field exists due to potential difference. So if there is field, there is also potential difference. So I take a conductor . This conductor has some ions, some positively charged ions, which are immobile. And this conductor also have some free electrons. These have positively charged ions, immobile ions. These ions are not moving. Then you have few electrons. Few electrons. So I have not connected this conductor to any power supply. I have not connected this conductor to any cell, any battery. What do you think? These electrons should be at rest or these electrons should be in motion? Till now, I have not connected this to any power supply. What do you think? Electrons would be at rest or electrons would be in motion?
At rest.
Yes, rest. Shahzada, what do you think? If I'm not applying any cell, any battery, then electrons should be at rest or they should be in motion?
So they should be at
See, if I take individual electrons, then those individual electrons would be in motion. Individual electrons will not come at rest. They will be in motion. If I take these individual electrons, then these individual electrons are continuously in motion. They are not at rest. So the first electron has some velocity u1. Although I have not applied any cell, I am not applying any battery, but still these electrons are not at rest. These electrons are continuously moving. Electrons are continuously moving. Now the question arises, why these electrons are moving? Which energy is deriving these electrons? It's due to thermal energy. When you take conductor, you place that conductor at room temperature. At room temperature, this conductor will have some thermal energy. Due to that thermal energy, these electrons will move randomly inside the conductor. So U1, U2, and U1 be the average thermal velocity of electrons. So the average thermal velocity of the electrons are U1, U2, UN. These are the average, not average, sorry, thermal velocities of electrons. So electrons are in motion due to thermal energy. From where that thermal energy came? That came due to the temperature. Your conductor is at room temperature. So at room temperature, conductor will have certain thermal energy. And that thermal energy will give thermal velocity to electrons. But the average of this velocity is 0. Means if I take average thermal velocity, average thermal velocity I can write as U average, then that is vector U1 plus U2 up to UN divided by N is equal to 0. Average thermal velocity is 0. That means there is no net movement of electrons. No net movement means if I take this conductor and say this conductor have 2 electrons, both are in motion. But in 1 second, this electron come from this end to this end. And at the same time, this electrons come from right to the left end. This goes from left to right end and this goes from right to left end. What do you think? Is there any net motion of electrons, Sania?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Is there any motion of electron, net movement of electron? You have two electrons. In 1 second, this electrons move to the right hand side and this electron move to the left hand side. Is there any net movement of electrons, Sania?
No, sir.
See, there is motion, but there is no net movement. If initially at this end you had one electron, it goes to the right hand side and this electron come back to its place. So there is no net movement of electrons. When I'm saying that average thermal velocity is 0, that simply means although these electrons are moving inside the conductor, but there is no net movement of charge from one end of the conductor to the another end. So this simply means no net movement of charge of electron across the conductor. So there is no net movement of electrons across the conductor if you're not applying electric field, if you're not connecting it to any cell. So that's one thing. I take a conductor, I observe this conductor will have free electrons. Due to thermal energy, all free electrons are in motion, but the net motion is 0. Net motion is 0 means if an electron is moving to right to left, then at the same time, one electron will move from left to right. So the net motion is 0. That we mathematically represents as average thermal velocity is 0. But if I connect this conductor to a cell, I take this conductor and I connect this conductor to a cell. I connected this conductor to a cell. So this is the cell. Huh? This is positive terminal of the cell and this is the negative terminal. So the end of the conductor which is connected to the positive terminal of the cell will become positive. And end of the conductor which is connected to the negative terminal of the cell will become negative. So one end is positive, another end is negative. Now, due to this positive and negative end, there is an electric field. An electric field gets established inside the conductor. This is the electric field. This is the electric field. Who is generating this electric field, Ahmed? Or the source of
The
this
cell.
electric field? Cell. Cell is the source of electric field. So this is the electric field. And the conductor had some ions, immobile ions, and electrons. Yes, Abdullah, can electric field affect these electrons in any way?
Yes, sir.
How electric field can affect electrons?
There will be a force acting on the electrons.
Force acting on electron, right? In what direction this force will act?
Sir, on the direction of electric field,
Opposite to that of electron,
opposite.
right?
It's
Because you have electrons. So all electrons will experience a force in a direction opposite to that of electric field. Each electron will experience an electric force in a direction opposite to that of electric field. So what happened when we introduced a cell on, I'm writing all details, huh? On connecting the conductor with cell, an electric field established. And what this electric field do? This electric field will exert a force on electron. Electric field exert force on electron. So the field will exert a force on electron. And how much is that force? That force is F, which is minus of EE. This is the force on electron. That's my first equation. Is it clear up to equation number 1, Fatma, Amalia?
Yes,
Any
sir.
doubt?
No.
So if electrons are experiencing a force, and if I say that M is the mass of electron, it's mass of electron. Remember, it's not the mass of conductor, it's the mass of individual electron. Then we can also calculate the acceleration of electrons. The acceleration of electrons is force acting on the electrons divided by the mass of electron. So that's minus of EE divided by M. That is the acceleration of electrons. This is it. Now, you have various electrons in the conductor. So all electrons will experience this force. All electrons will have the same acceleration because electric field is same. All electrons are identical. All will experience same force. They all will have same acceleration. But in a conductor, you have various ions, big ions, which are at rest. When these electrons tries to move within the conductor, this electron collide with these ions very, very frequently. Like if this is an electron, I'm drawing it by red color. Force is acting over the electron. Electron tries to move, but it collides with the ion and comes to rest. Then again, the electric force will try to move this electron, but will again collide with the ion. Then electric force will again pull this electron, but it move for some time, but will again collide with the ion. So this is how electron moves in a conductor when you apply electric field. The motion is not smooth motion, it drifts. It accelerates for some time, then collide with the ion, it comes to rest. Then it accelerates for some time, then again collide with the ions and come to rest. So the motion of electron is not smooth. It's colliding with the ions and slowly moving towards the positive end of the conductor. That's why we say that electrons are not moving inside a conductor. We say that electrons are drifting inside. It's colliding with the conductors, with the ions several times. Now, between any two collision, that obviously electron will take some time. It collide with one ion, then it collide with the another ion. So the time taken between two collision is tau 1, tau 2, tau n. Let tau 1, this is time, tau 2, tau n be time taken by electron in two successive collision. Two successive collision means electrons first collide with this ion and then it collide with the ion. So time taken between two collision is tau 1. For another electron, the time taken between two collision is tau 2. So I'm taking a tau 1, tau 2, tau 1 be time taken by electron in two successive collisions. And the initial velocity of electron is this thermal velocity. But due to this force, after this time tau 1, the velocity of electron will definitely change. Like for maybe when the electron is near this ion, the velocity of electron is, let's say, 10 meters per second. Then due to the force, after this tau 1 time, the velocity of electrons will definitely change. It will not remain same. The velocity of electron will change after every collision. So final velocity of electrons, one can write as final velocity of electrons. The final velocities of electron, V1 is its U1 plus AT tau 1. That's final velocity of first electron. Then you can write its V2. Second electron, its initial velocity is U2. U2 is thermal velocity. then acceleration A, then tau. I'm using that equation of uniformly accelerated motion, V is u plus at. Similarly, for nth electron, the velocity is un plus a tau n. So now we are calculating the velocities of electrons after collision. Yes, Noor, we will see that it decreases because acceleration is negative. You will see that thing mathematically, acceleration is negative. We'll see that it's decreasing. So this is the velocity of individual electrons after the collision. So I'm repeating again. See, initial velocity of each electron is u1, u2, u3, un. This is velocity before the application of electric field, and this is known as thermal velocity. Average thermal velocity is 0. When you have applied the electric field, then electric field applied a force on each electron, due to which each electron will accelerate. When each electron accelerates, it collides with the ions. Its time taken in two successive collision is this. Its velocity will change, and these are the final velocities of electrons. But when current flows through a conductor, we don't observe individual electrons. We observe the average velocity of electrons. So drift velocity is the average velocity. Average velocity after the application of field. So I can write that drift velocity here is the average of individual velocities, v1 plus v2 up to vn divided by n. So this is equation number 2, and this whole is equation number 3, and this is equation number 4. Now I'm just substituting the value of v1, v2 and vn here. So I'm just substituting 3 and 4. When I substitute 3 into 4, see, we get Vd is V1, which is U1 plus 8 tau1, V2, which is U2 plus 8 tau2, Vn, which is Un plus A tau n divided by n. Divided by. So we can write drift velocity in this way, that drift velocity is, take this term together. It's U1 vector plus U2 vector and Un vector divided by n. And take all these terms together, this one, and this one. So I can write this as, this is A tau1 plus A tau2 up to A tau n divided by n. So Mariam, how much is this U1 plus U2 plus Un by n? What is this velocity?
Sir, it is the average velocity.
Average thermal velocity, right? Which is 0?
Yes.
This is average thermal velocity, which we have discussed here. This is the average thermal velocity, which is 0. Okay. Okay, so this is equation number 2. Sorry. And this is equation number 3. And this is equation number 4. This is 5. So I'm substituting 4 and 5. So we know that average thermal velocity is 0. So when I substitute these values, I can write that drift velocity Vd is 0 plus A. I'm taking A as common. Like from all these terms, I can take A as common and I'll be left with A tau1 plus tau2 up to tau n divided by n. So this is the drift velocity A, tau 1 plus tau 2 up to tau n. Now this tau 1, tau 2, tau n is the average time taken by electron in two successive collisions. Tau 1 is the time taken by first electron for two collisions. Tau 2 is the time taken by second electron for two collisions. This is represented by tau, which we call relaxation time. I'm defining relaxation. This is average time for collision. Tau 1, tau 2, tau n are individual time for collision of individual electron, but that's average for all electrons. When I do this substitution, then we get that drift velocity is, it's A tau. Let's call this as equation number 6. The value of A we can substitute from this equation 3. When I substitute 3 and 6, then we get that drift velocity Vd. We get that drift velocity Vd is minus of EE by m into tau. So this is how we calculate drift velocity, which is minus of EE tau by m. So the velocity with which electrons moves towards the positive end of the conductor, minus EE tau by m. So that is the expression for drift velocity. Here, this negative sign shows that the direction of drift velocity and electric field is opposite. Negative sign shows that direction of drift velocity and electric field is opposite. Both are acting in opposite direction. Means electrons are moving in a direction opposite to that of electric field. If you want to write only magnitude, you can write this Vd as simply EE tau by m. This is magnitude. So last, I'm writing the definition of relaxation time. Time taken between two successive collisions. Relaxation time is average time between two successive.
Sir, can you show the last slide?
Yes, I'm coming to last. Successive collision of electrons with ions. Yes. I'm coming to the first slide, then you can note. You can take proper notes. So that's the drift velocity with which electrons drift towards the positive end of the conductor. Now you can write things. And keep asking wherever you stuck in the entire calculation. This drift velocity is very important. The whole theoretical part of the current electricity depends on the concept of drift velocity. All further topics will be based on drift velocity only. Note it down, tell me once you have written and ask if you stuck somewhere. Any doubt in this slide? Shazada, Sania, Mariam?
No, sir.
It's okay.
No, sir.
Tell me once you have written, change the slide.
Done, sir.
Okay. Okay, Noor is asking the acceleration is constant because force is constant. Yes, Noor. It's because electric field is uniform, force is constant, so acceleration is constant.
Okay, sir.
Amalia, when are you asking for the electrons? Before the application of field or after the application of field? In this slide you are asking, na? Before. It's due to thermal energy, Amalia. Any body which have temperature greater than 0 Kelvin will have thermal energy, which we calculate in this way, 3/2 Boltzmann's constant into temperature. One example of how these electrons are moving is if you take some water in a container, you start boiling the water. Then you must have noticed that water molecules move randomly. Have you noticed this thing? If you take some water in a container and
Yes,
start
sir.
boiling it, molecules move. The motion of these water molecules is due to the temperature, due to the thermal energy. Just like water molecules, the electrons in the conductor will move due to thermal energy. Electrons will move due to thermal energy. That's it.
Sir, done.
It's okay. Yes. Can I change the slide?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So while electrons are continuously moving due to thermal energy that they have. Keep asking your doubts. It's okay. Shazada, Ahmed, written. Can I
Yes,
change the
sir.
slide?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So just a second, the last slide. Thank you, sir.
So can you take previous slide? Previous. So what is this?
Okay.
So what is this?
Electric field,
Elec-
electric field.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir, clear. Yes, sir, done.
Eins, Ahmed. So this is the velocity with which electrons moves into a conductor. So that's the mechanism through which current flows inside a conductor. When you connect a conductor to a cell apply electric field apply force on the electron, and due to that force, electrons move from one end to another. This is the expression of drift velocity. It's E tau by m. M is electronic mass, E is charge, electric field is capital E, and tau is relaxation time. See, this relaxation time controls the temperature dependence on resistance. Like resistance of a body change with temperature. So the dependency of temperature is mostly controlled by this tau. Okay, there are few conceptual questions on this topic. On increasing temperature, if I increase temperature, on increasing temperature, when I increase temperature, then thermal energy increases. Due to increase in thermal energy, electrons collides more frequently with the ions. And due to those frequent collisions, the relaxation time will decrease, Vd will decrease. If relaxation time decrease, then drift velocity will decrease. So when we increase temperature, then relaxation time decrease. Due to decrease in relaxation time, drift velocity decreases. On increasing temperature, if you decrease temperature, it's reverse. So if you decrease temperature, then relaxation time will increase and drift velocity will increase. Remember this thing. That's important one marker question. That if you increase the temperature of a conductor, if you heat up a conductor, then electrons will collide more frequently with the ions, due to which the relaxation time decreases and drift velocity decreases. On the other hand, if you decrease the temperature, then relaxation time increases and also drift velocity will increase. So that was about drift velocity. After drift velocity, the next calculation is about the relation between current and drift velocity. Say current is flow of charge, or in a conductor, current is the flow of electrons, and the velocity with which electrons move is drift velocity. So there should be a relation between drift velocity and current. So that relation we have to derive. Relation between current and drift velocity. Relation between current and drift velocity. See, it's a simple calculation, simple algebraic calculation. I take this conductor. From the point of view of school exams, there's an important derivation. Otherwise, a simple calculation. This is a conductor. Area of cross section of the conductor is A. The length of the conductor is L. we connected this conductor to a cell. Due to the electric field applied by the cell, the electrons are moving inside the conductor. They're moving in this direction. Sania, if electrons are moving to the left hand side, then what is the direction of current? Electrons are negatively charged particles, Sania. They are moving to the left hand side. Then what is the direction of current?
It will be opposite.
Yes. Good. Direction of current is opposite to the flow of electrons. Current will move in opposite directions. So here A is area of cross section. A is area of cross section. Here L is length of conductor. N is number density of electrons. Number density of electrons. And then we have Vd, which is drift velocity of electrons. Okay, if electrons are moving with this drift velocity E, and to move from one end of the conductor to the other end of the conductor, it have to travel a distance L. Can you calculate the time taken by electron to move from one end of the conductor to the another? Time taken by electron to move from one end to another. See, speed is distance upon time. So time we can write as distance divided by speed. So that's the time taken. It's distance, which is L, divided by speed, which is drift velocity. So that's the time taken by electron to move from one end to another. Is it clear? I'm simply using speed is distance upon time, nothing else. So time is distance upon speed now. Number density of electrons means number of electrons per unit volume. Capital N is total number of electrons in conductor. V is volume of conductor. Amalia, can you relate volume with length and area of cross section of the conductor? Length is given, area of cross section is given. Can you calculate the volume of the conductor, Amalia? Can you relate volume with length and area of cross section? Shahzada, can you relate volume of conductor with the length and area of cross section? No. Noor, can you relate volume and area of cross section?
So volume is equal to area into length.
So you can write that volume of a conductor is equal to length of conductor multiplied by area of cross section. That's the volume of conductor. That's second equation. Now you can easily relate volume with this number density and this capital N. See, small n means number of electrons in unit volume. For total number of electrons, you can simply multiply small n with V. That's 2. So you can write total number of electrons as n into L into A. That's third equation. So we have number density means number of electrons per unit volume. Number density. So I'm writing the meaning of number density. Number density simply means number of electrons per unit volume. Number of electrons per unit volume. Number of electrons per unit volume is number density only. And this is total number of electrons, number density into the volume. The next is, now let's calculate current. For current, I need charge. Delta Q is charge flowing through cross section of conductor in time delta t. See, charge on one electron is E. So Sania, what is the charge on n electrons? Because in time t, all n electrons are moving from one end to another. If charge on one electron is E, Sania, how much is charge on capital N electrons?
1.
1. Listen, Sania, you have one electron, charge on that electron is E. How much is charge if you have two electrons?
2N.
2E, right?
Yeah, 2E.
What if you have 10 electrons?
10E.
What if you have n electrons?
NE.
Ne. And how much is n? N is NL into A. So you can write 3 and 4. When you write 3 and 4, then you get charge is NLA into E. That's equation number 5. So this is the charge that's flowing from one end of conductor to the another end. Now we have charge, we have time. I need current flowing through one end of conductor to another. Current through conductor. Yes, Shazada, you have charge, you have time. How do you calculate current?
So charge by
Charge by time. Let's call this as equation number 6. Charge is here and time we have calculated in equation number 1. Now let's substitute 5 and 1 in 6. When I make these substitutions, then I is NLAE divided by time, and that time is L by VD. It's L by VD. This VD will come to numerator, L will cancel this L, and you will get your current is NEAVD. So this is the relation between current and drift velocity. I is NEAVD. You can say that current is directly proportional to drift velocity. Note it down and tell me if you have doubts in any step. Tell me once you have written. Shazada, any doubt in this slide? Can I change the slide now?
Yes, sir.
Just a second, sir.
Yes.
So what is it?
Which one?
Through. Okay,
Through,
sorry.
sorry, through. Haji, can I change the slide now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So that's the relation between the current and drift velocity. After this relation, now we can define Ohm's law. But before Ohm's law, see what type of questions and you can get on this relation. Apart from numericals, there are few conceptual questions based on this relation. The first is, remember that this is not the definition of current. The definition of current is charge upon time. So from here you write that current is independent of area of cross section. Current is independent of area of cross section. Current does not depends on area of cross section. So from here you can write that VD is I by NEA. So you can say that VD is inversely proportional to A. So drift velocity is inversely proportional to area of cross section, but current is independent. If you look at this expression, then you can get a wrong impression that I is proportional to A. It's not the basic definition of current. Basic definition of current is this Q by T, which shows that current does not depend upon area of cross section. But yes, drift velocity depends upon area of cross section. It's inversely proportional to it. So these are two important conceptual questions. One, current is independent of area of cross section. Another is this, drift velocity is inversely proportional to area of cross section. So if I draw a conductor in this way, this is given in NCERT. Yeah? This question is NCERT. And some current is flowing through it. Here current is I1, the current here is I2, area here is A1, area here is A2. At this end, velocity is VD1, over this end, velocity is VD2. So Shahzada, can you compare I1 and I2? I1 is less than I2, greater than I2, equal to I2.
So it's less than.
It's less than. See,
So it's equal to.
just read this statement, Shahzada.
Yes, sir. It's
I1 is equal to I2. Now compare VD1 and VD2, Shahzada.
yes, sir.
Which one is greater? Drift velocity at N1 and drift velocity at N2. Can you compare them? Which one is greater, Shahzada?
So VD2.
VD2. Why VD2 is greater? Because area is large.
Yes, sir.
Just read this statement. What this statement is saying?
Area increases.
Hmm.
So VD1.
Yes, it's inversely proportional to area. So VD1 is greater than VD2. Remember this thing. These are conceptual questions given NCERT based on this relation. Is it clear, this thing? Ahmed,
Yes, sir.
Fatma, just note it down. Then we will start Ohm's law. And we'll see how can we calculate resistance.
Yes, sir. Done.
See, the numericals on drift velocity and this relation will involve everything. It will involve Ohm's law. It will involve resistance. It will involve resistivity. So first of all, we will complete resistance, resistivity, Ohm's law. Then we will come to this topic. Okay, fine. I'm changing the slide now. Okay, the next is not question. We'll do one more topic. Let's start with Ohm's law. So Ohm's law simply says that if you have a conductor the area of cross section of the conductor is A. And I connected a cell of EMF E across the or voltage V across the end of conductor. Some current is flowing through the conductor. Then Ohm's law says that voltage will be directly proportional to current, provided the temperature should not change, the pressure should not change, the physical conditions like the shape and size of the conductor should not change. If it is not changing, temperature is constant, pressure is constant, other physical conditions are constant, that voltage is proportional to current. When you remove the sign of proportionality, we use a constant R. This R is known as resistance. Here, resistance shows the obstruction offered by the material in the flow of current. So that's the statement of Ohm's law. At constant temperature and pressure, at constant temperature and pressure, current through a conductor is proportional to the potential difference applied across its ends. So if the pressure is constant and the temperature is constant and the current through a conductor is proportional to the potential difference applied across the ends of the conductor. That's Ohm's law. V is proportional to I or V equal to Ri. If I plot V versus I graph, this is V and this is I. If a system is following Ohm's law, then the graph should be a straight line. If a system is obeying Ohm's law, then the V versus I graph should be a straight line. V is proportional to I means V versus I graph is a straight line. So if a material is following Ohm's law, then its V versus I graph will be a straight line. It will never be a curve. Next, we can divide materials into two categories. Material could be ohmic or it can be non-ohmic. Oh, just one more thing. If I draw this graph, this is I and this is V. This is V and this is I. If I draw this graph, V versus I graph, say that graph is a straight line. This angle is theta. Now, if I calculate the slope of this graph, slope is the ratio of voltage and current. So that's, sorry, it's perpendicular upon base, tan theta. Slope is tan theta. Tan theta is perpendicular upon base. Perpendicular is parallel to current. Base is parallel to voltage. I by V, I can write as 1 by R. So the slope is 1 by R. Slope of the graph is 1 by R. But instead of this, if I draw this graph in this way, like if I write I here and I write V here, and I say that it's following Ohm's law, that means your graph should be a straight line. If I calculate slope now, then slope is, this angle is theta, then slope is tan theta. Ahmed, how much is slope now? Is it I by V or V by I now?
V by I is equal to R.
V by I. It's perpendicular upon base, so it's V by I, which is equal to R now. So remember, you will get questions on graph. Remember, if you have voltage on the x-axis, then the slope is 1 by R. But if you have voltage on y-axis, then your slope is R. Note it down, Ohm's law. You can write that V is volt and current that we measure is in ampere. Any doubts in this slide?
No, sir.
No, sir.
So if a material is following Ohm's law, then the graph should be a straight line. If graph is a curve, then it's not following Ohm's law. Tell me once you have written, we'll change the slide.
Yes, sir. Done. So this should be I, right?
Yes, it's I.
So these two lines are not equal, right?
Yeah, they are not equal. They can be of any value, any line.
Okay, sir.
The important thing is this line is parallel to voltage and this line is parallel to current.
Okay, sir. So done.
Okay, I'm giving you a basic question. So you have this graph, V versus I graph. This is voltage in volt. And I have current in ampere. So I'm drawing two graphs. for two conductors, conductor A and B. This is for conductor A and this is for conductor B. This angle is 30 degree and this angle is 60 degree. Calculate first part. Resistance of conductor A using voltage versus current graph of two material A and B. Calculate first resistance of A and second resistance of A and then calculate the resistance of A. Do it. Calculate it and write your answer in chat. So you have V versus I graph and you know how to calculate slope or resistance from the graph, from the slope. I need answers. How much is RA and how much is RB? Write your answers in chat room. Abdullah, RA. Yes, Abdullah is correct. Both the answers are correct. Amalia. Yes, Amalia, RA is correct. Ahmad, you are making some mistake. A is incorrect. No, A is not correct. Yes, Noor, your A is correct. Ahmad, Ahmad, you are making some mistake while calculating A and B. Just check this thing. Check this one. Yes, Abdullah, yours are correct. What about the rest, Mariam? Shahzada? Yes, Amalia, B is right. Ahmad, R is 3. Okay, I'm writing the answers now. I'm writing the answers now. See. The slope of this graph, tan theta, is not R, it's 1 by R. So you can say that R is 1 by tan theta. So RA is 1 by tan 30. Tan 30 is 1 by root 3. It goes to numerator and it comes out to be root 3. So RA is root 3. RB is 1 by tan 60. Tan 60 is root 3, so it's 1 by root 3. So that's RA is root 3 and RB is 1 by root 3. Yes, Ahmed, Shahzada, is it clear now?
Yes.
Sure. Okay, the next is, on the basis of Ohm's law, you can classify materials into two categories. We have two types of materials. This classification is on the basis of Ohm's law. There's one type of material which we call ohmic. Ohmic are those materials which follow Ohm's law. For materials for which V versus I graph is a straight line is ohmic. Then we have material for which V versus I graph is not a straight line. If V versus I graph is not a straight line, that means that material does not follow Ohm's law. And the material which does not follow Ohm's law is known as non-ohmic. Sania and Fatma, I think you have missed this numerical. Take screenshot of it.
Yes, sir.
Fatma, taken? Ohmic and non-ohmic material. Ohmic and non-ohmic. So ohmic are simply those material which can follow Ohm's law, and if a material does not follow Ohm's law, then we call it as non-ohmic. So let's see ohmic first. It does not follow Ohm's law. It,
Ohmic does follow.
sorry,
Ohmic follows Ohm's law, right?
ohmic is?
Ohmic follows Ohm's law, right?
Yeah, they follow Ohm's law. It follows Ohm's law. V versus I graph is a straight line. V versus I graph is straight line. So if I plot V versus I graph here, this is voltage, this is current, then the graph will be a straight line. That's ohmic. Few examples of ohmic material are metal. All metals are ohmic. Then you have carbon resistors. These carbon resistors are also an example of ohmic material. So all metal conductors are ohmic. Carbon resistors are also ohmic. After ohmic, we also have non-ohmic material. It does not follow Ohm's law. Non-ohmic does not follow Ohm's law. V versus I graph is not a straight line. Is not straight line. So you can have various types of graph for a non-ohmic material. You can have V versus I graph in this way, or you can have these type of graphs. So these are non-ohmic. Some examples of non-ohmic devices in your syllabus are diodes. You will study diodes. These are non-ohmic. Transistor is not a part of syllabus now. Otherwise, transistor is also a non-ohmic material. So these are non-ohmic. Some examples of non-ohmic material. Note it down. Then we will start resistance. What is resistance exactly? Tell me once you have noted.
Right, sir.
Okay. After ohmic and non-ohmic, the next is resistance. So Sania, what is resistance exactly? What does resistance mean? What does resistance of a conductor mean, Sania?
Resistance is constant.
Hmm?
It's a constant.
It's a
Constant.
Constant? No.
So it
Yes, Ahmed, tell.
controls the flow of current.
Controls the flow of current. Any other definition, Abdullah?
Sir, opposition offered to current.
Obstruction offered by current. Yes, it controls current and it's also a constant. So Sania is right. Ahmed is also correct. But the exact thing is this obstruction in the flow of current. It obstructs the flow of current into a material. So resistance is obstruction offered in flow of current. So obstruction offered by material in the flow of current is resistance. Its SI unit is ohm. SI unit is ohm. That's resistance. And we can write resistance as voltage by current. R is the ratio of voltage and current. And the cause of resistance. See, what is the cause of resistance? We did that calculation of drift velocity. What is current? Current is the flow of charge. The flow of electrons is current. So when electrons are moving inside a conductor, then what is obstructing that movement of electrons?
Resistance.
Ions. Right? When electrons are moving in a conductor, then those ions are restricting the movement of electrons. So that is the cause of current. Collision of electrons and ions is responsible for resistance. This collision of electrons and ions is responsible for resistance. That's the cause of resistance. Greater the number of collisions, greater would be the resistance of the material. Note it down. I'll stop here. We'll continue tomorrow from resistance. So you have a class tomorrow at 8 a.m. I will try to finish this theoretical portion tomorrow. Then we'll left with circuits only.
Okay, sir.
Okay, Abdullah.
Left, sir.
Love is.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.